This is our final media evaluation by
Bobby,
Nick
James.
and Jack. Our first question is:
in what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products?
Firstly, it's usually filmed in light and edited to darkness in horror films, and that's what we did the second round time, so it meets with the conventions.
Well, the first time we did try and film in the dark, but our camera wasn't good enough, so we had to film in the daytime instead.
And it challenges the stereotype of the main character making stupid decisions at every possible moment. And our character is none the wiser. They're not aware of what's going to happen to them, so they haven't really been put in the position to make any stupid decisions.
Also, our character, leading character, is a male, whilst usually the stereotypical leading character for a horror film or thriller is a female. So that's another way that we go against the convention for a media product.
Question 2.
How does your media product represent particular social groups?
Firstly, it shows that young people are vulnerable, because obviously the main character is getting hunted down by the killer, and the main character is a young person. So
Tried to represent just the normal boy who's just like on his way home from school, just doing what he normally does, and he just like comes into some. Question 3.
What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why?
well, firstly, I think it's going to be independent, because we don't have backing from the big six.
Although I feel like the same with paranormal activity, if it became big enough, I feel like a media giant such as Paramount Pictures may distribute the product if it became successful.
But what we'd have to do is we'd have to crowdfund, possibly in terms of sourcing finance for the film, because obviously we're nowhere near big enough to be financed by a major film company, so we'd have to maybe fundraise to get our film shown at maybe an independent film festival, and then hopefully it catches wind from there.
Question 4.
Who would be the audience for your media product?
I think it should be at least age 15, and it should go all the way up to 30, because obviously for horror movies the minimum age rating is a 15, so yeah.
I think also, like with the horror genre, in contrast to kids' films where it targets a particularly small age range, I think ours, from the minimum age of 15, can pretty much be 15 onwards up until any age, but we feel the majority of the audience will be maybe around 15 to 30, 40s at a push would be the majority where our audience would come from.
Also, as our film is thrilling and keeps you on the edge of your seat for the majority of the film, I feel like horror movie enthusiasts of any age might love this film.
Question 5.
How did you attract or address your audience?
So we addressed our audience by making it relatable. So obviously the main character's a teen, and we're aiming for teens to watch it, so they can relate to that.
We can say relatable as in, they're just going out, just having a walk in the local park. In terms of other horror films, where a teen might not be so relatable when they're trapped in some warehouse or being kidnapped, because that's not really an everyday situation that teens can, or young people in general can really relate to. So
It also kind of shows that anything can happen really, and that in a situation such as ours, that you should be more aware, and I think that relates to a lot of younger people.
Question 6.
What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product?
Firstly, I think that we learn a lot about like the limitations of cameras when you're filming in the darkness. because the first time he went to film, the cameras didn't pick up the light properly, so he couldn't get anybody onto the camera. So
Also, we learnt a lot about the programs and the advantages and disadvantages of each. So, with Sony Vegas, you had to edit wisely because the preview didn't show you the final product, so you just had to make sure that the final product which came out when you rendered it was what you wanted.
Also about the Adobe After Effects, and that was what we used to make the film darker. Because as was said before, we went out to try and film in the dark and it didn't work. So there wasn't enough natural light for our camera to pick up, so we had to film in daylight and make the darkness artificial. So that was another editing software that we've got used to.
And finally, question 7.
Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel like you have learned in the progression from it to the full product?
firstly, we found out that not everything goes to plan. When we went to go and film it, first off, the camera didn't pick up any light, so we had to reschedule.
Also, we have learnt ways to get around our problems and solve them in a way that we can still make the film progress. And that was a big advantage when it came to the full product, because it was a lot easier to film after we knew how to get around the challenges of the preliminary task.
And another thing is confidence in front of camera. You can tell from looking at the preliminary task and our final task that the people on camera, the confidence it's gone up from being, like a nervous wreck to looking like they're almost at home, like they know what they're doing, like they've been doing it for a while, in terms of being on camera.